Hello, everyone, and welcome to the High Sensitivity Podcast, and thank you for listening. There's no episode counter to this one because it's a special. We are talking about the whole of The Last of Us, the HBO Max special, and the finale that has just aired less than a day ago. I figured it'd be better to kind of get our ideas fresh and maybe leave our thoughts on the series on a separate podcast here. But if it's your first time listening to us, we usually talk about video game and movie news as well as what we watched or played over the week. My name is Barry, along with my faithful, not the last of them co-host.
Not the last. I am not the last of the Craigs. My name's Craig.
My name is also Craig. Are we the last Craigs then? The last of
I don't know.
Craigs?
Maybe. Maybe there are no more Craigs after this.
Yep.
It's a Craig Demick.
Craig Demick.
That's good.
All right, well, we've all watched the finale of The Last of Us, so before we get into our thoughts as a series, on the series as a whole, let's go into what we've thought of the final episode. Shortest runtime is what they mentioned here. It was about a 43-minute without the post stuff that they've always been doing about like the in the scene or into the details of the episode, and also the credits afterward. The nailing was exactly what I wanted it to be. I am glad they didn't do anything else with it. I did think overall the episode was pretty quick.
Yeah.
I feel like the only part of the episode I really wish they spent more time on was the brutality of Joel in the hospital.
Yeah. I thought it was done well, but it was done weird, if that makes sense. Like, I wasn't upset at the way they did it, but like the like mellow dramatic music and like I don't know, I guess I was expecting like this big action scene. And it's not really that. I mean, the action's there, but it's just kind of like I don't know, like I don't hate it. It's just not what I expected. And I guess that's pretty much par for the course for this show, right? Like for us who have played the game, it's not exactly what we expected, but it still works.
No, yeah, it's still very good.
Yeah. It was essentially just like violence with the world's smallest violin playing in the background, which was what it kind of almost felt like. And I don't know if that take is going to satisfy everybody, maybe new watchers, because you don't have that you don't have the game fresh in your mind, or even not fresh in your mind if you played it years ago. But I could have seen a little bit more brutality because if like I remember the ending correctly, you just rock the hospital and Joel did, but he did it in like a minute and a half montage, which felt a little less than what was desired,
Well, and you also don't get the flamethrower, which like I like that's kind of the like if you want to talk about the brutality of Joel, it's give this man the flamethrower and let him like emptiness in his eyes just burn, people. And that's I did also expect almost like a James Bond type of going up the hospital staircase in order to get to Ellie and going from there. Like, really, that's the only portion of it that I wish we saw more of, because we know Joel as this brutal guy who like can't take loss again. There's no way he could lose Ellie after kind of pseudo replacing her as his daughter. And that's kind of like I wanted to see almost like the craziness of the parent. I wanted to see him lose his mind instead of like reacting as cool as he has, because we've seen him lose himself, especially in the first episode when he's about to, and he like just loses himself and beating the guy up. So it's and that's what I just felt was missing for it. I wanted, and it's selfish of me to think that, but I wanted to see kind of the anger of the parent really kind of show through Joel there.
Yeah, and you know what? We were off of an episode where we saw the brutality and the anger of the daughter. Ellie had an amazing scene where it was thoroughly captured what she had gone through in that episode and beyond, in the way that she just essentially, without them showing his mutilated face, he went she went completely ham on that guy. And this was like a Black Hawk Down scene. You know, where's I know it's I know people think it's cheesy and corny for like the actor to be screaming while he's firing the gun. I don't know. I think there's a way that you can nail it where you could see the brutality that has been inside Joel while still providing some level of sincerity with it. And he just looked like a guy who was being led away. And again, in a Black Hawk Down or even like a Jason Bourne way, he saw an opportunity, he did a quick move, he succumbed to soldiers, and then he just shot other soldiers. I mean, I don't know, the hospital, like the scene in the operating room was fine, but
Yeah. Yep.
but leading up, I didn't get the raw that I wanted. I wanted some raw egg there, and I got a cooked egg.
I feel like, at least from what I thought it was there specifically. Like, they just show him going from like picking up a gun, emptying it, picking up the next one. But even when like he shot the one guy, and then the gun was empty, and he just dropped it and took out his knife and just walked up to the dude and just straight killed him that way. Like, that was pretty brutal. Like, no hesitation on his point whatsoever. Just drops the gun, pulls out the knife, and stabs him. So I think it was there. It just wasn't like over the top action movie style, like a John Wick. It wasn't John Wick, and maybe that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
We wanted a little John Wick, because you feel that way when you're playing that part of the game.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna blow up this entire building. Like, this whole building's coming down with me. But yeah, I don't hate it. It's just we all expect it differently in our mind from playing the game. It'd be interesting to find somebody who hasn't played the game and be like,
Oh.
what did you think about that?
So I actually, exclusive from Barry,
Okay.
I got a comment from Barry's parents.
Okay, perfect.
Who
yes.
have never played the game. I knew that this would come in handy here, so give me 1 second.
Yeah.
While I bring it up. This is specifically from. This is both kind of my dad and my mother's feelings. We liked the show. Kind of knew he was going to stop the operation. The lie was shocking, but also expected. So, and I asked him if he would go any bit further there, and he was like, he pretty much goes into that. Yeah, I understand why Joel does what he does. As a parent to, and he mentions like you and Brandon, I might have done the same.
Okay.
The love of the, he mentions like the love that I have for you guys, like the love of the parent kind of goes beyond any sort of meaning or any rational meaning around it. So
right.
He, and my mother was a bit more like, and he mentions like, my mom was like, oh my God, like, why would he do that? Why would he lie to her? And it, my dad eventually goes into how he kind of explained it to my mother about why he did what he did, why he did it. And I have no doubt, and he goes, I have no doubt your mom would say the same thing. Like, had it been any of you guys or anything like that, we may have said the same thing there. So he did mention that overall in this series, he said it just seemed a little odd that her mom's friend sends the girl with Joel. So we're talking about
Marlene
sending them with Joel just to get them to the hospital to arrange a life-ending surgery. But I think in the game they mentioned like this was the only point they had, like they were meeting up with other Fireflies.
Well, they were supposed to drop her off way back when. That was the plan with Marlene.
Oh, yeah.
And that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I always assumed that like she didn't know where they were until much later, Marlene, because she told Joel, get her to this point, and then everybody at that point was dead. So she had no idea where Joel or Ellie was until, I'm assuming until they showed up at the hospital, right?
That would make sense. Yeah. Because that was when Tess died.
Right.
And it looked like a routine job, and it was up until they got to that essentially was like a city hall, wasn't it? Something like that. It was a large government building. And that's, like I understand we're this far in the series that, that part may be a little bit hazy, but that, I mean, when you think about all of those arcs, that makes complete sense. So then you have Marlene not exactly knowing where they were, but thinking that the mission had already failed.
Yeah.
Which would explain also why the guy was hostile to Joel and Ellie up front, because they didn't even know they were Joel and Ellie, which they explained in the episode
Right.
with a brief sentence or two. So
Yeah, she said they didn't know it was them. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. It makes sense in my mind why she would not know where they are and then just end up being where they needed to go. I mean, where else would she go, I guess, at that point?
Yeah. And then I just wanted to add a bit more. I also got the viewpoint of a friend of mine who like loved the Last of Us series, but isn't a parent, because I feel like there's two different sides
Yeah,
here
there is.
to that. And he says he did not love the ending, which is kind of the expected point. He just he pretty much said here, I mean, it was well shot and well acted. I just kind of hate how Joel, now who was kind of my favorite character before, so I guess he's disappointed. And then he goes, I guess I'm disappointed, but I understand the point of the ending. And it's, I asked him, like, what made him your favorite character? Like, Joel, you're the one that plays as him in the game, and he never played The Last of Us either. So there's a little bit of self-insertion with people who have played the game as Joel and everything like that. And then he just goes, I guess I probably just like Joel because Pedro Pascal's acting. And I went, I went like, but you see it in there that he is a psycho and a psychopath, kind of in a way, with him just pseudo replacing his daughter, in that kind of thing. So, like, overall, it's definitely like two different viewpoints there. Like, parents seem to get it, and what I will say for me personally, and maybe it's changed for you, Craig, because was your daughter born by the time this game came out? The first one, like
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
originally played it.
Because
Yeah?
it was what, 10 years ago?
I think so. I think it's got to be 10.
2013,
Yeah, she
10
was
or
born.
11.
She was like a year old, but
or
yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
even, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess the difference for me now in watching The Last of Us, and this is getting into overall what I think about the series, is overall, like, that ending was really shocking to me. I was, if it was, if that's the case, I was probably 18 or 17 years old, and I was like, oh wow, what an incredible ending. Like, he lied straight to her. I don't know why he did. And now that I am older, almost 30 at this point, I kind of realized that I was like, you know what? I kind of get why Joel does what he does in the ending here, because without the knowledge and I guess the I don't want to say veteranness, but just like the knowledge of like being wiser and getting older, I understand, the want to protect your child, despite the fact that lying is the best way to protect them in this particular case. And I'm not sure how you guys feel kind of reflecting on the ending, since,
I mean, Marlene, when they're in the garage, she was 100% right. If you tell Ellie straight up that if she goes through with this surgery, it has the potential to create a vaccine, but she's going to die, she's 100% going to say yes. So it makes a sense for Joel to lie to her about it because he doesn't want her to do that. That you could consider that selfish because he doesn't want to lose Ellie, which in his mind is another daughter. He would rather sacrifice the entire world than go through another loss of a daughter. So it makes 100% sense. And it's also perfect that people are kind of on opposite sides of the fence on whether they like the ending or not, because it's completely setting up the next season, which is the next two seasons, which will be the second game, because that's the whole point of that second game, right? Is the issue with him lying to her. So it's it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's you're either going to be, yeah, good job Joel, or I can't believe Joel would do that. It doesn't matter. You're going to be completely in the right mindset for when this next season comes out in a year or two, for when Ellie goes all angry at him.
And outside of outside of any dedication to Last of Us, if you're looking at the writer's side, I mean, this is what you want. You want your audience on the fence, because they're going to talk about it for quite a long time. But I agree with you, Barry. I feel a different way being older playing it because I would have been, I don't have any kids, but I would have been in my, I think, 23, 22 area when the game came out, which I was an entirely different person
Man, I
Mhm.
really was
than I.
that young.
Yeah, you were.
You
Oh
were.
man, yo, man, it
Yeah,
just goes to
you had
show,
you
man.
had your you had your high school yearbook next to you while you were playing it.
Yeah, I was still in high school. Jesus, man.
Yep.
But I totally understand it. Like there are certain situations with my own parents where now that I am an adult, I have my memories and I remember either little white lies or maybe even larger lies that my parents told me to protect me until I was old enough, and then I realized when I was old enough why they did it, and I'm not mad at them. I mean, I'm not saying that Ellie's not going to be mad at Joel because,
Right.
but not being a parent, my take is that I don't know. I was also raised, so I completely understand now why you tell your children certain things. Now, Joel did it a little bit in a selfish way, as was already said in this discussion, and you can completely see it in his face when he's telling her. And I don't know about y'all, I got butterflies when she asked him straight up at the end, "Are you lying?"
Yeah.
And he is. And he looks at her dead in the face, and he says no. So you could tell that there's kind of like a unshaken or shaken ground there. And that's what the second season is about, what the second game is about, all of that type of stuff. It's all, it's going to be Ellie struggling with that, without giving much away. There's a lot more that happens in the second game
Yeah.
slash will be second season.
Yep.
Can we talk real quick about the first scene though? The Ellie birth.
Yeah.
Whoa. Like,
Came out of nowhere.
whoa. It was great. It was
Mhm.
great. And there is our Ashley cameo.
Yep.
That's what we were looking
It
for.
threw my brain for a
Yep.
spin.
Yep. Her talking.
Yeah, her talking, like
Yep.
my brain
Ellie?
was rattled. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was tough for me to like concentrate on that whole scene because
Yeah.
I just picture Ellie every time she's talking, and I'm like,
It's like Ellie talking to Ellie. Like,
yeah.
just like it was good. It was good though.
She did a great job.
She did.
Didn't expect that to be the way to open the last episode either.
Yeah, we want to talk about rawness. There was rawness. That was straight up. I mean, like, people can argue and nitpick on how the actual pregnancy went down because she kind of like the baby was just there after she
Yep.
killed the walker or runner or whatever was chasing her. But like, that's nitpicking. I wasn't nitpicking. I was enjoying seeing her just kind of assess the situation. Marlene showing up at night and then finding her already in like, I'm ready to like destroy myself position while singing to her baby. That particular portion kind of really cut me because of the survivor mentality combined with the motherly mentality. She's singing to her child, ready to stab herself in the neck at any point when she feels she's turned too much or she's lost too much humanity. I thought that was great. And then props to who played Marlene, because that turnaround gun moment was great. After she said originally that she wasn't going to do the deed, but that scene was great. That scene was so good.
Also, on a side note here, and maybe I'm just looking too much into it, does that look like the farmhouse from the second game to you?
Oh wow.
I'd have to look back at the farmhouse from The Last
I'd
of
have
Us
to, too.
too. Yeah, I
You know which one I'm talking. Like, I don't want to throw it
Yeah.
out there for people who haven't
Yeah.
played the game, but that there's a farmhouse that's super important in the second game, and I don't know. To me, I was looking at it, I was like, that kind of looks like the farmhouse.
that would be a
interesting.
really good
That'd be
choice
good.
for them to like
Yeah.
kind of, and
Yep.
I'd be the when and if they do that for like the second season, like I'll be listening into the after the episode sort of
Yep.
details.
Oh,
to be
yeah.
like, we just thought it was perfect that we did this with the farmhouse.
Yep.
It's gonna be
And
like
I could see them doing that because they've already had that nod towards a certain character that'll be very prevalent in the second game, who was in the town looking at Ellie. You know what I mean? Like, they've already set
Yeah.
that stuff out there, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was like Neil and them being like, let's do the scene in this farmhouse that'll come up later, season 3 maybe, that would be very cool if they do.
Yeah.
That would be, and that'd be a hats off to all the fans too,
Mhm.
especially like you, Craig, the ones who notice it, or
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, do a double take.
Yeah, it just looked almost the same to me, and I was like, that I wouldn't be surprised, and I also wouldn't be surprised if I was just looking way too hard into that, and if it's just like a random house she ran into. But yeah, also the other scene in that last episode as well was done extremely well. The giraffe,
Yeah.
Oh
man,
yeah.
Kind of real big
man,
surprise. I didn't think we were gonna get that at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
To be honest. And did it feel weird to you guys? Like, and I can't remember because it's been so long since I played the original Last of Us. Is Ellie like that when you're getting towards Salt Lake there? Like,
yep,
it's because like,
Yep.
all right, yeah,
100%. Yep,
yeah,
Yeah,
because
she's
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 very
very
like
reserved.
standoffish. Yeah,
Yep. Teen angst.
yep. I don't know if like I don't remember because like again I am playing through it again, but I'm not to that point. I can't remember if it was like a mixture of like she just knows it's coming to an end, like her time with Joel, and she's just kind of sad about it. But it's also the issue of she just brutally murdered somebody, and that's
yeah,
throwing
Yeah.
her off a little bit. Um, I always assumed it was like a mixture of both. That like she was worried Joel was going to leave, so she was trying to distance herself. But yeah, I mean that was in the game, and she did a good job of portraying it. But I also thought when I was watching it, like people who haven't played the game may think it's a little weird that all of a sudden she's acting like that.
yeah. Because and
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to remember myself. Is
Mhm.
you'd think now that Joel has kind of become her rock of, let's say, steadiness, you'd think
Yeah,
she'd be more open, smiley. They'd be enjoying their trip. And once he mentions puns, she starts to smile and everything like that.
yeah,
But it was a little off-putting for me, and that's why I need to play the games again to get into like why she was so socially awkward,
yeah,
and whether it was
Yeah.
because of the kill, or it was she knows either the time with Joel is coming to an end, or because they kind of alluded to this as well, is that Ellie maybe is a bit more afraid of Joel, because I know like in the game she like while she does what she does, she knows like Joel is brutal, and
yeah,
like
Yeah.
maybe there's some part of her that is smart enough to know that, yeah, this man's not gonna just let me go, and that kind of thing. So I just wasn't sure, and now that you guys reminded me that she's socially awkward, it kind of makes more sense. But I think I need a refresher as to play the game. Another
yeah.
reason to play the game.
It's
Another
true.
reason to play the game. It's definitely a great contrast because, Ellie was the talkative one for the entire series.
Yeah,
That's one of the things
And he
first time
mentions that.
watchers.
He
Yeah.
yeah,
they
Yeah, he
mentioned that in the
does.
episode.
Yeah. And now you got Joel forcing conversation, which is always great for somebody who's not that talkative for the majority of their time. So that was also awkward and funny to see. And it was kind of nice seeing it be portrayed in a live sense
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, but like other than that, I think overall, like I did love this series. I think it was an excellent idea to bring Neil Druckmann into it to kind of
Oh my God, yeah.
Yep.
shoulder some of the writing responsibility and get his input on what he wanted things to be. I'm excited for another season. They have already announced that they are doing multiple seasons, which I think makes sense because there is enough content in two to
Like
make
Yeah.
30
it.
hours, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
to make at least 2 or 3 seasons out of that if you really wanted to. So you just have to find a way to skip the gameplay portions, I guess. But
Yeah.
just overall, great, great time. This is definitely one of the best video game adaptations we've ever seen, and I
Yeah.
think probably the best live action video game adaptation like ever.
Definitely.
Yep. It gives
I would
me
agree.
hope for other stuff now.
Yeah. And you know what? They were able to do all this. How many cordyceps scenes were there actually?
Not many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One bloater, two clicker scenes, two. Yeah, there was like the
Yeah.
one when they first got to where they were meeting, where Tess was still alive there. But then you could count the one that showed up with the bloater, like the child clicker and the Rush of the Undead. Like they didn't do a lot of cordyceps scenes, and they still nailed the crap out of it. That's one of the things as the curtain, came up on, I guess, my episode watching last night. That's one of the things I was talking to my wife about. I was like, they were able to nail this, and props to them, because there's like Walking Dead. There's not a lot of undead in certain portions, and again, it's all humanity. And real props to Craig, props to Neil. Like they took it, and they made one of the not one of the best adaptation. I would really have to see something amazing to get swayed for a live action adaptation, at least.
Agreed.
So.
And the next one up for PlayStation is God of War and Horizon. I think Horizon's scheduled to come out before God of War. I know they've been working on that one longer.
Horizon's the opposite of Last of Us, though, because when you're making a Horizon TV show, it's how do we condense and make it more exciting than the actual game is. Because I would argue that the Last of Us game is more exciting than the Last of Us show, right? Like you're doing whereas with Horizon, you would want the show to have more action and excitement than you get in the game, personally. Not that I don't hate those games. I just think that they can be boring.
No, I mean, you're right. At the Horizon, they just need to do like the last 5 missions together. Yeah. Do like a couple of things, and then do like the last 5.
You could almost like do the beginning and then leave just a chunk of the middle out, and then get straight to the end.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing really happens in the middle anyway.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, just going back and forth. I completely agree.
But like, you bring up a good point, Craig. The Last of Us video game is still more exciting. And I think the only reason why is there was just a couple of set pieces that they didn't do in the show. Like, I mean, they went a completely different route with Billstown.
Yep.
In the Billstown one, you fight a bloater. Mm-hmm. Like you go to a school, right? Don't you go to a school to get the battery?
Hotel. Yeah, you go to the school. You also are you're in a hotel. That's after you leave Billstown, though, where you're in the basement with the bloater.
Yeah, because that's another scene. That's they switched from Pittsburgh to Kansas City, and then they didn't include the hotel scene. That's a pretty exciting scene. In Billstown, you have to start a car and run beside it and push it.
Yep.
There's definitely set pieces that they obviously didn't try, or not try. They could not probably in the writing recreate and fit it in a good time frame. So I just had to point that out, because you actually, that's a pretty good point. Like that the game is still more exciting, but as far as sitting down with some popcorn with some loved ones and watching it, they knocked it out of the park.
They killed it.
All right. Yeah, perfect. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about The Last of Us in general for?
Nope. What are we supposed to watch now?
I don't know.
I need something else big.
I got a segue for you, Barry, by the way, into your closing. All you have to do is say, speaking of, you'll not see The Last of Us today, because we're going to have an episode on Sunday.
Anyway.
Yeah, right. Anyway. Thank you guys for listening. I guess what I haven't done is I should have said something about spoilers at the beginning. I'll figure it out in post. Just overall, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I hope that you guys give us your impressions on The Last of Us. I'd like to have more people who definitely didn't play the game, like what they thought of it, just because it is, I feel like, and as we've kind of learned now, with age, the ending means different things to different people. So yeah, I definitely would say, make sure you comment or send us an email about what your thoughts on the last episode were, and we read them on the podcast. Is what we would do.
All right.
Yeah.
So, you get an extra episode of us this week. This one's a little bit shorter, but I appreciate all the support we get. Make sure to follow us on Twitch, Instagram, and Twitter. And please make sure to review the podcast on your podcast listening platform of choice. That is us signing out. See you guys next time. Bye.
See ya.
Later, guys.